Greetings, Metal Earthlings. Marty here from Heavy Metallurgy with yet another review. This time, I'm doing something maybe a little bit different than what I've been covering leading up to this point, and I want to share it with you. A good mix of styles, so stick around and find out what I have to say about it.
Rushing through the ruins of cities that burn, they live only to kill, their purpose will be served.
All right, today we are covering the international band. It's a two-piece. They are called Veriluola. Veriluola, kind of a tongue twister there. Veriluola. Veriluola. I'm going to have to try to drill that into my brain. It's a two-piece. One guy's from Finland, the other from the United States. They formed in 2020 and released a self-titled demo. And they are a kind of a interesting form of blackened death metal. Today I'm going to be talking about their debut full-length called Cascades of Crimson Cruor. Another tongue twister. Cascades of Crimson Cruor. The album was released this past May 12th on Nameless Grave Records. First impression of this band, there was an aura of familiarity about it. Couldn't put my finger on it until later in the album, which I will get into. But I was instantly captivated by their very murky sound. It feels like black metal in the attack. It's got, due to some riff and atmospheric choices, yet doesn't deny embracing an old world form of death metal, which gives their song structures and their songs in all a weight to them. There's like a heavy weight to them. It cannot be denied, and it's further accentuated by a deep croaking vocal style, which is very interesting, unique, completely atypical from what else is going on in the black and death metal worlds. I think it's really cool. This band came up with something unique that borrows from the past and fits in its own way into what's going on today. First thing to take note of is the production of this record. It's got a very organic, authentic sound. The guitars do not sound like, I have no idea how they recorded this, but the guitars do not sound like a plug-in. They sound like an amp. The guitars are distorted, but there's like a clean underbelly to it. So there's like the guitar attack is really sharp. It's got a lot of it's very distinct sounding. The riffs are very clear. The playing is very tight. So this guitar tone that isn't oversaturated with gain, it allows the riffs to breathe a bit more. Drums cut through really well. Good heavy plod to the drums. Again, it would have been interesting knowing that these are people that live on completely two different parts of the earth. It would have been nice to know how this was recorded, because I could be talking out my ass on this. But let's get into the songs. Anguished Soul Collective, the lead-off track, is kind of an odd choice for an opener. I thought anyway. Very awkward riffage is drugged behind a plodding and simplistic drum beat. Usually, standard operating practice is you jump right out of the gate with speed, aggression, really grab the listener, pull them in. Veriluola decided to do something a bit different, which it was surprising, but welcomed, and it kept me interested to hear what happened with the rest of the song and decide if I was going to spend more time with this record, which I was. The deep croak vocally sounds demented and completely unique, as I mentioned earlier. The track builds slowly into more of a mid-paced and energetic midsection with interesting guitar melodies accenting the riffs. This track shows us that we are in for an atypical experience. Indeed. Moving on to track 2, Regal Barbarism. It's a faster track. Could have been a solid opener. Again, they could have went with what's normal here and laid into some speed. It's not blasting speed. It's just a quicker, fast thrash beat, if you will. that would have been a solid opener. More traditional black metal vocals accompanies the dark and deep vocals for variety. So they layered in some harsher screams to go alongside the death vocals for interesting results. The slower midpoint of the song demonstrates very interesting riff ideas and melody choices, all the while creating an authentic darkness that just feels old. It just has that old school, early mid 90s vibe to it. The next track, Blood Grotto, it's a very solid song. Mid-pace double bass plod with dissonant riffs that feel triumphant in their hook-laden march. Again, the band here is established that they've got a unique sound, and what makes this even more interesting to me is, yes, the tracks sound like they give off the vibe of being simplistic in the riff ideas, but when they start layering stuff on, those guitar melodies come in. What really throws this stuff for a loop for me is the interesting song structures. I don't always know where these tracks are going to go, where a lot of bands stick to the A-B chorus type of structure. These guys, they hint at it, but then they go into an interesting bridge that doesn't really, it comes in at a weird place, goes into an interesting direction, takes the listener right along with it. And that, for me, was the most interesting part. Their attention to detail and actually wanting to create songs that were just as atypical as the sound that they were trying to present. The next track up is Enthralled by the Blaze. Clean guitar intro adds class and yet another dimension to this album. What comes in after is a slow and barren riff. The mildly distorted guitars, it has a clean attack to it, puts in mind of the Greek sound. See, this is... I mentioned earlier that there was something familiar about this record to me. I couldn't put my finger on it, and it wasn't until Enthralled by the Blaze that I heard it. There was, when the song got really simple, and there was just a note choices and the way the drums interacted with it. There was that plotting feel. It just reminded me of the early Greek sound. Verathron in particular. As soon as I came up with Verathron, I realized the main vocal, the deep dark vocal style, reminded me heavily of Necro Abyssios from Verathron. Same, where he was maybe a little more gravelly in his low, deep, dark style. This guy has just more of a clean snarl to it. But the execution feels very familiar. And as soon as that clicked with me, I'm like, okay, now I see where the foundation, whether it's intentional or not, it seems like the foundation of this is kind of reaching out to the Mediterranean a little bit. Very, very interesting mix of sounds on here. The ending tracks, Impish Insurrection, which is the longest song on here, clocking in around 10 minutes, and Eternal Nights. They end the album with continued focus and careful song crafting ideas. Eternal Nights, in particular, may contain some of the best riffs on the album. The way those two tracks end this album is a lot like the album starts. Just very solid, very focused, very authentic, interesting song structures. You don't really know where it's going to go, but the way it's written, it doesn't feel technical or overly perplexing. It just feels like a journey. And it really gives Cascades of Crimson Cruor. That's just a hard word for me to say. It gives it a very unique attack, and the fact that this band has really no one else that it fits with here currently going on in the scene, it makes them stand out quite a bit. And as we all know, bands that stand out are typically not really praised that much or overlooked. That's why I kind of wanted to give this one a review. I really have, the only thing I would really have to say as far as criticism goes, the song choice, the very first song, as I mentioned, didn't really seem like it was the smartest way to start the album out. But it still worked for me. Again, it's a very minor criticism. Would I have rather them just jumped in with something faster? Probably. And one thing I think would have really benefited this album and really contributed to the dark, evil aura that does exist on this record would have been some minor, sinister synth textures here and there. I think something like that could have really opened up another realm of atmosphere for them to explore. Again, if they would have kept it simple in there, it would have been really tasteful and nice. But other than that, Cascades of Crimson Cruor is a very interesting listen. I've enjoyed listening to it. I might even buy it. Yeah, I don't really have more to say than that. If you want something that steps outside of the typical OSDM or the typical either Cascadian or European or Scandinavian black metal style that has been used and abused and reused over and over again, Veriluola is a very interesting band and worth checking out. But I guess that's it. I really appreciate y'all for hanging out and watching this review. Do you like this content? Subscribe. Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm trying to do a little bit better with answering comments. I've been pretty busy lately, but there's more content coming like this. If you like that, stick around, and we will see you next time. Cheers, folks.
No!